Hello and thanks for joining us. This is TVC News at 6. We'll begin here in Lagos, where President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned a new terminal at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, expected to handle 20 million passengers a year. The inauguration of the facility is part of activities lined up for President Buhari's working visit in Lagos. The new terminal comprises 4-story main terminal building, 3-story finger building, 2-story cargo terminal building, 82,925 square meters, apron and external and ancillary works. It also has 60 sets of check-in counters and 7 boarding bridges.
The event is an eloquent testimony to the strong commitment of our administration to the development of world-class infrastructure across all sectors of the Nigerian economy. Our continuous investment in the building of long-lasting infrastructure in the aviation, road and rail transportation, agriculture, telecommunications, and other critical sectors is yielding massive results, and the people of Nigeria are now increasingly attesting to benefiting from the associated dividends. Starting from the year 2015, when we commenced our first tenure in office as government, we have been deliberate and consistent in identifying and investing in critical projects that will improve the standard of living of our people, as well as contribute immensely to our growth and development as a nation.
Earlier, the president commissioned $2.5 billion Dangote fertilizer plant in Ibeju-Lekki area of Lagos. The project, he said, is in line with the government's drive to ensure food sufficiency in the country. The multi-billion-dollar facility was commissioned, an event well attended by many political, traditional and religious leaders, as well as key members of the private sector from various parts of the country, including the host governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The Dangote fertilizer plant is Africa's largest granulated urea fertilizer complex, which occupies 500 hectares of land in a Lekki Free Trade Zone and was built at about $2.5 billion. Still in Lagos, the bus rapid transport driver Andrew Nice, suspected of murdering 22-year-old fashion designer Oluwabamiche Anyanwola, has been arraigned before Justice Sherifat Shonaike of the Lagos State High Court, sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square. He pleaded not guilty to the offenses of rape and murder of Ms. Anyanwola in February, as well as another rape incident of a young lady which occurred last November. Kemi Fola-Adeyemo reports.
Andrew Nice and others said to be at large were accused of conspiring to rape and murder Bamiche Anyanwola at about 1900 hours on February 26, 2022, between Lekki-Ajah Expressway and Carter Bridge in Lagos. He's also accused of raping another young lady who's 29 years old last November around the Lekki Conservation Center, which is also on the Lekki-Ajah Expressway. Dr. Jide Martins, who is the Director of Public Prosecutions, represented Lagos State, while Isaac Ezekwem represented the defendant. Another counsel, Ayo Ademiluyi, announced appearance for the Anyanwola family.
The Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Jide Martins, told Justice Shonoike that there is a strong likelihood that the state government will amend the charges against the defendant, Andrew Nice, and that the post-mortem examination of Ms. Anyanwola is still pending, the result of which will be brought to the court when it has been conducted. Though the defendant pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts charge, his lawyer says they will be considering an option of plea bargain.
Inviting international observers, international forensic observers, international forensic pathologists to so conduct that pathology. It is the opinion, the report of that pathology that would be of use to us. And of course, the prosecution, although we are watching brief, we can only be seen and not be heard. The prosecution also said they will be available to employ video links, which are so about that. Wonderful enough, the late Bamiche Anyanwola was so gallant enough, was so resolute enough to produce serious video evidence that will be useful in this subject.
The case was adjourned to May the 9th, 10th and the 11th, 2022 for trial to begin fully, and the defendant was ordered to be further remanded at the Nigerian Correctional Center in Ikoyi. Earlier in March, Yaba Chief Magistrate's Court remanded the defendant for 30 days pending the DPP's legal advice, which has now been issued, prompting the case to be heard at the High Court, which is statutorily empowered to hear capital offences such as rape and murder. Kemi Foladiemo, TVC News, Lagos.
Elsewhere, armed policemen have taken over the Cross River State House of Assembly. According to reports, the policemen are drawn from the anti-kidnapping squad and regular policemen. They were also seen around the routes leading to the House of Assembly. Meanwhile, movement into the Assembly complex on Diamond Hill has been restricted. The presence of the policemen followed the Federal High Court Abuja ruling on Monday, which sacked 20 lawmakers in the state for defecting from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Akali Baba, has charged senior police officers to always commend their personnel who have exemplarily excelled in their duties, which have in turn impacted positively on the goodwill and image of the Nigerian police force. The IGP gave the charge while commending the performances of some officers and men across the state commands, particularly Sergeant Samson Ekikere, attached to 22 Police Mobile Force Ikeja, Lagos, for his uncommon professionalism exhibited on the 19th March when he painstakingly recovered a wallet belonging to one Mr. Lukman Abaja and traced the owner to deliver the found item. The IGP equally commended Sergeant Yahaya Ahmed, attached to Higher Sharia Court Tundu Wada Division, Gusau, Zamfara State, for rejecting the sum of 300,000 naira bribe offered to him by one Chukwuka Jude, who was arrested at the same court on 18th January for the offense of false presentation and cheating by impersonation. Also commended was CSP Akinkume, who was head of operations at the police radio. IGP Usman Baba assures the entire police workforce of sustainable efforts in improving their condition of service. And now to Abuja, where a regional meeting on the peaceful application of nuclear technology among African countries is ongoing. The forum, hosted by the Nigerian Atomic Energy Commission, aims to scale up the acceptance of nuclear technology in various areas of human development. And Sifon Essien reports.
Experts in nuclear science and technology converge in Abuja to share knowledge and tools for applying nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. Nuclear technology is being applied in various aspects of technology, including healthcare, animal production, food and nutrition, as well as radiation safety. But the negative impact of nuclear technology continues to pose a stumbling block to its acceptability.
We can be able to use this technology to come up with a variety of crops, for example, through breeding mutation, that they would be able to sort of withstand this salinity or drought or water stress as well.
In hosting the forum, Nigeria seeks to scale up the level of acceptance of the technology for peaceful purposes.
You know, in implementation of nuclear science and technology, there are three major gaps. One, you have to have the requisite manpower, human capital development. Two, you have to have the funding mechanism for you to implement the programs. And then three, we have to have acceptability of the technology itself.
The overall objective of the meeting is to ensure that Africa is not left behind in the effective use of nuclear technology. At the end of the day, the forum hopes to scale up the acceptability of the application of nuclear science and technology for peaceful purposes. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
In Rivers State, more than 100 pharmacies and patent drug stores have been shut down for alleged illegal operations in Port Harcourt. The Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria sealed the businesses during a routine enforcement of its regulations. And senior reporter Uche Okoro has details.
Just like banks, petrol stations and markets, pharmacies also provide an essential service for the society. But the government tends to pay special attention to drugstores because they have a more direct impact on the health of consumers. Due to the need to adhere to best practices, the Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria is out for enforcement. Some of the defaulters were shut down for refusing to comply with storage requirements.
Many of these premises are not registered with Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. And also, they do not have appropriate storage facilities, thus exposing medicines to adverse environmental factors that either degrade them or transform them to other biologically active substances whose actions are at variance with manufacturers' indications, thus making them unsuitable for human consumption.
The regulatory body also frowned at the wrongful sale of drugs, especially controlled medicines.
These illegal outlets do not have pharmacists to supervise the dispensing of medicines to the public. This has contributed to irrational dispensing of medicines, resulting in treatment failures and untoward effects on patients and other unsuspecting members of the public who patronize them.
For the umbrella body of pharmacists in Rivers State, government can sanitize the system with a more effective legal framework. Residents are also advised to insist on purchasing drugs from certified pharmacists.
In some countries, in Asia, there are certain things you do. You are involved in fake drugs. You'll be sentenced to death or given very severe punishment that you won't even think of trying such a thing. If that can happen here, in Nigeria, a lot of things will improve. I mean, take away the issue of is my brother. You arrest somebody and the next day someone puts a call from somewhere and says, oh, it's my brother, release him.
The good news is the council says some pharmacies and patent drug stores are making the effort to comply with the rules. But some have gone back to break the PCN seals and reopen for business. So far, 16 of these defaulters have been arrested. Uche Okoro, TVC News, Port Harcourt.
And let's take a break now. When the news returns, we'll have more stories. Stay with us. And thanks for staying with TVC News. Let's continue with our coverage of the World Water Day. It is a day aimed at bringing the attention of nations to the global water crisis and negative repercussions of contaminated water on the human species. Now, a core focus of the World Water Day is to support the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030. The theme for this year's commemoration is groundwater, making invisible visible, and it focuses on exploring, protecting, and sustainably using groundwater, which is central to surviving and adapting to climate change and meeting the needs of a growing population. And joining me for more on this is Director of Programs, CAPA, Philip Jakbo. He joins me via Zoom from Dakar, Senegal, to share more insight on this. Good to have you join us.
It's a pleasure being here.
So I want to begin from where I stopped with your colleague, because I spoke to your colleague earlier at Dangote Ige, and she did say some really very interesting things. She mentioned how we're surrounded by water, but almost none to drink. And she also talked about how water is a human right and that it is government's responsibility to provide that right. And I want you to pick up from there.
Well, Ronke mentioned rightly that it is the responsibility of government to provide water. Even when we talk about the theme of this year's World Water Day, which is about groundwater, you must also understand that today, as it is, most people have to dig their own boreholes, which of course depletes the water channel, because government has failed in its responsibility of providing water. Sometimes statistics are thrown at us, 60% of Nigerians have access to water, 70%. But we don't need to go too far to know if this is true or not. For yourself, even interviewing me, if we were to ask you, what water do you use? You find out that it's borehole you are using. Myself is borehole. Most people is borehole. Not because people love to use boreholes because of the impact it has on the environment, but because we are victims of a system that has not prioritized water as a human right to people. So yearly we have budgetary allocation to the water sector from the federal government to the states. But ask yourself, has it translated to more water for the people? No. And the implication, of course, is very, very huge. The theme of this year's World Water Day, of course, groundwater, but even the meeting in Dakar here, you have two major sectors, having a meeting. You have the private water promoters participating in the World Water Forum, and then you have civil society organizations, those who believe that water is a human right, holding the Alternative World Water Forum, which of course I am attending, just like other civil society groups under the Water Rights Africa Coalition. And what we are saying is that water should not be a commodity. Water is a free gift of nature, and water should be provided by government. That is what we are saying.
Do you think that perhaps, because we're taking climate change a little more seriously, not that much has been done about climate change, but at least we see that governments across the world are responding, and they are signing several policy documents, including the policy document in Paris. Do you think that perhaps maybe there should be a global push for a policy document binding on all governments to provide water? I saw a documentary today where people, I can't remember the exact country now, but it just really broke my heart to see children dying of drought. And this is not starvation, this is about drought, water. And so what do you think can be done globally to ensure that governments begin to provide water for citizens?
I think you are very, very right when you mention that there's need for something to happen globally to make it water as a human right, universal access, a possibility. But unfortunately, the corporations that are pushing for water to be a commodity, that are pushing for privatization, they are also big corporations globally. You have Suez, you have Veolia. These are big corporations. Unfortunately, they are also now targeting Africa to push this idea of privatization of water. That's why you hear of PPP, that's public-private partnership in the water sector. And unfortunately, in Nigeria, it's not almost every state of the federation is talking about, public-private partnership, which is an abdication of responsibility. So, like you mentioned, truly, if there's this global, push to make water as a universal right happen, I think that is the way to go. In 2010, the United Nations declared water as a human right. So the responsibility is on governments to ensure that their people have unfettered access to water. Without this, the implications are very, very grave. And rightly, like you mentioned, the issue of climate change, as the climate continues to change, you are going to have stresses on the few available bodies of water and the groundwater that we drink, and that is going to have implication on health. You are going to have more women and girls going very, very far to get water. It's going to have implication on education, because the girl child who is supposed to be in school, she has to go very far.
Goes around to start looking for water. So, yes, it has several implications, and it's a huge problem. I wonder why this is not on the front burner, why we are not talking about this. Hopefully, the right person is listening and doing something about it, even as we speak. Thank you so much for talking to us. Director of Programs, Kappa, Philip Jakbo. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Let's talk politics. Residents of Imekoafo have commended the Ogun State Governor, Dakpo Abiodun, for his inclusive and participatory governance, which is bringing development to the state. They made the commendation at a stakeholders meeting while deliberating on the political future of the state and the zone. And TVC News' Kazim Olowe reports.
People of Imekoafo local government of Ogun State say they are pleased with the style of governance of the state governor, Dakpo Abiodun. They listed equity, fairness, justice, inclusive and participatory governance as part of the key attributes of his administration. They commended him for completing most of the abandoned project by his predecessor and for the welfare package for the citizens.
There is something very unique about this government. This is the very first time that I will see a government coming to power and continue the abandoned project of his predecessors. This is the very first time. So anything that we want to do to encourage that kind of a government to continue, I would definitely be part of it.
It's a governor that really loves the workers. It's a worker-friendly, he attends to our needs. Whenever we call him, he really attends to our needs.
I'm here to support the re-election of our dear governor, because he has been doing excellently well since he came into power a few years ago, and there is nothing bad in supporting his re-election bid.
They noted that they are not satisfied with their representation at the Senate currently and used the occasion to call on the son of the senatorial district currently serving in Lagos to return home in the interest of his people.
Senator Solomon Olamilekan Adeola Yayi is hereby called upon to transfer his political participation to his roots in Ogun West.
They say the senatorial district seems to be on the right path now, and with proper alignment, they will produce a governor in 2027. Kazim Olowe, TVC News, Imekwafon.
That's the news this hour. Join my colleague Nifemi Oguntoye at 7 for more update. You can visit our website tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram using the handle at TVC News NG. Thanks for watching.